Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 200. I am Brendan. All right, the PFL 2022 championships. We're going to cover the main card here, all of the championship fights. So that's going to cover Kayla Harrison versus Larissa Pacheco, Brendan Laughnane, Bubba Jenkins, Ante Delija versus Matheus Scheffel, the Aspen Lad Julia Budd fight. Not a championship fight, I know that. Olivier Aubin-Mercier versus Stevie Sadibou Dilano Taylor, and Robert Wilkinson versus Omari Akhmedov. Normally, I don't cover every single one of those that I'm going to go over, but just to give you a heads up. Before we get started into that stuff, if you like MMA, you like fight breakdowns, if you like talking about like weird decisions and trying to understand that stuff and find your way through these fights, subscribe to the channel because that's what I do here. I put out 2 or 3 videos every single week covering the PFL, UFC, Bellator, a bunch of different organizations based off of hype and what's going on during the weekend. So let's get started. If you're looking for a particular fight, if you're looking for a specific fight breakdown, the timestamps are down below. Let's look at the championship fight. Okay, so Larissa Pacheco getting the decision here, defeating Kayla Harrison, giving her first career loss. In oh man, this one was difficult to watch. I often don't really get upset when I'm watching MMA anymore. I mean, I'll get upset at the fact that it's a boring fight or somebody's doing something illegal or breaking the rules, committing fouls, like the things like that. Very rarely do I get upset and I get animated about what a fighter is doing technique-wise, because I try to keep myself, even if I'm invested, even if I like the fighter, I try to keep myself out of it to stay as unbiased as possible, which is it's impossible to be unbiased. You're a human. I'm a human being, so I have to be biased. In this fight, watching Kayla Harrison shit the bed so hard, I was yelling. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?" This is not to say that Pacheco didn't perform and do what she needed to do. I think she stepped up and increased her performance level to meet the performance level of Kayla Harrison, and I think Kayla Harrison made significant mistakes in rounds that cost her this fight. I don't think that Larissa Pacheco did anything so outstanding technique-wise that it really was able to. Oh man, how do I put this? Because she stopped all the takedowns, right? She was stopping all the takedowns. She was stopping the offense of Kayla Harrison for the most part. And then when Kayla Harrison did get on top, she was throwing some bullshit from the bottom, but some of those shots from her back were landing pretty hard too. So she was always just throwing stuff out there. And through all those techniques, that's why she won. That's why she won. I had her winning. There's no controversy here. I would never I gave Kayla Harrison 1 round. I didn't even give her 2 rounds. I thought she did horrible. Anyway, the way that I was putting the way that I would put this is that Pacheco, like I said, stepped up to meet the level of Kayla Harrison in this fight, but there was nothing that she did, like like a couple moments like this where she had her in the triangle, but it wasn't. They made a big deal out of it because Kayla Harrison really hasn't been put in those positions before, so it was something to. And there is a possibility that you can get a finish like this, but the way it was locked up with the arm not across underneath the chin, and she didn't have a lot of squeeze because she was tired. There was just a lot of moments that I felt Kayla just, like I said, shit the bed. She just made mistakes. In this first round here, Harrison had this beautiful trip that put Larissa on her back. I don't think I've ever seen someone able to transition from a failed double or a failed single leg so smooth like that. She fails on the double because Pacheco gets double underhooks, lifts her right up, and then Harrison switched to a trip with I don't know if it's a collar tie up. I don't know. This is where my experience in why is it? Oh my goodness. Judo, good grief. I don't know why I was drawing a blank because I was thinking I'm like, she's a gold medalist and then I hit a blank. I've never seen that kind of smoothness in this technique. And like I said, this is where my inexperience with judo and the proper names for like the moves. I've heard them before. It's not a sport that I am well versed in. It's not something I watch a ton. It's not something that is called out a lot in MMA. Obviously, you have people like Michael Bisping. During this broadcast, we had Kenny Florian mentioning the type of throw they were. So there are names for these things. It's just I don't know them. So I'm just going to say she had a upper body lock and ended up, she hits her with a really nice trip and then gets on top. So Larissa had a closed guard and she was just holding Kayla Harrison in place while Kayla landed ground and pound. This first round was all Kayla Harrison. And if when they were on the feet, Pacheco did look competent, but on the ground, on her back, it was just holding her still, trying to hit her when she could, but Harrison was just going to coast her way to a victory. This was not a 10-8 because she didn't lay out enough damage, but it was definitely one-way traffic. Then the second round, Kayla Harrison was just relentless with this takedown attempt. She ended up getting caught in a choke, and she had to roll to her back to defend. She ends up reversing position. Larissa was able to defend against many of the takedown attempts in the second round, and she landed more damage in the second round. So I figured after this second round, Harrison's going to be like, okay, I'm going to have to make some adjustments. Pacheco on the feet was doing enough damage. I'm going to have to be more diligent when I'm on the outside and then work my way in to get into a trip position or go for a takedown that way. She'd made none of those adjustments. She just kept diving on shitty doubles and shitty singles. More on that in a bit because she did something so stupid. I can't believe it. In this third round, Larissa did damage. She did have a triangle attempt for a while. That's where that picture came from. And she did lots of striking from her back. Kayla was in mount for 90 seconds, but she did no damage. This third round, they score it here as far as their FPR, the fighter performance rating. They gave that third round to Harrison because she was on top. But to be honest with you, I mean, they don't give us striking numbers or individual control time for these rounds. But I'll tell you, dude, this third round, I didn't even give that to Harrison. I mean, you can, I guess, but I felt that Pacheco did enough damage in that third round to warrant her getting that third round. If you know me, like again, I'm biased. I always am, but when it comes to damage, it's number one, and I felt like Pacheco did more damage. This fourth round comes around. Kayla was doing nothing but making mistakes in that round. It was absolutely asinine. At one point, she had the back body lock and let it go to try to hit a single leg. That allowed Larissa to hit the switch and end up on top. So this is something where I almost felt that Kayla Harrison was compromised, whether it be emotionally, physically, mentally, something. It felt like she was compromised. In this fourth round, she had the back body lock, right? So she's behind Larissa. She has her hands gripped together. It's one of the safest positions you can be in on the feet, right? Because if you're going for a takedown from the front, they can strike with you. There's different submissions that they can try to hit, like a guillotine. They can try to hit Darce chokes from the front. There's plenty of front chokes that you can hit. They can defend themselves. They can, like I said, they could do downward elbows. They can knee you. There's a ton of things they can do from the front. If you are behind them and you have a back body lock, there's very few things that they have available to them as far as offense goes. Obviously, they can roll and try to go for a knee. They can try to roll under and grab your leg, which is a possibility, but it's not something I would have put out there. It's not something Pacheco has shown in the past, nor did I think she was going for that. They can throw elbows behind, and we've seen people in the past get caught by those, and those can kind of suck. So there's that, but other than that, being in the back body lock position is one of the safest. And as far as a takedown, you could put your weight on them. You don't need to get the full takedown. You can just put your weight on them and let them carry your weight, let them make the mistake. You can lean backwards. You can try and kick their feet out. And, with all of her experience in judo, as far as tripping goes, you figured she'd go for some of those. But instead, she let go of the body lock and dipped down for a single leg. Now, you can say, oh, that's plenty fine technique. People do that all the time. I'm not going to disagree with you. But in this scenario, in a round where she followed up, she's following up 2 rounds where her single and double legs were getting stuffed and she was ineffective with them. In fact, ending up in less than advantageous positions on her back or defending submission attempts from Pacheco because of those double and single legs. Why would you give up one of the most advantageous standing positions to go for that single leg? And I understand the heat of the moment. You think, it was just a failure, and it wasn't the only mistake she made. I think this was the same round where she dove on a single leg and Larissa sprawled really well and was laying on top of her. And instead of pressing forward to just to throw Larissa off balance and try to escape that way, or pulling backwards to escape, or rotating under, the clock, or it would have had to have been clockwise if she rotating under just to get out of that position. Just basically control Z-ing the position, being like, okay, undo. Sorry, we're gonna retry this one. Instead of any of those, she turns into Larissa, actively giving her back, so that Pacheco gets the back take, and then she eventually rolls into her and gets on top position, but in the guard. But that's not the point. The point is she actively made decisions in this fight that put her in worse positions than she needed to be in. As far as her game plan and going for single and double legs, I mean, they kind of worked, sort of, and that's less. I have less of a problem with that, because you see that all the time. You go in with a game plan, you figure I'm going to be able to dominate this person, and it doesn't work. And it's hard to get out of it. You've practiced it, you've drilled it, you've shown your competency in it. It's your bread and butter. And then when you get in there, it's just not working. It's not coming together, but you just go back to it because that's what you're comfortable with. I totally understand that stuff. But when it comes to making actively worse, like active decisions, these were not passive decisions where Pacheco was doing some crazy stuff on offense. And that's what I meant at the top of this when I said Pacheco wasn't doing something so crazy offensively that it was putting Harrison in these compromised positions. She was just defending takedowns, and then Harrison would go for stupid crap, or she would put herself in a worse position, and Pacheco would just end up on top. And yes, Pacheco has to do the work to defend the takedown. Absolutely. She did a great job of that. But she wasn't, like, that switch that she hit when Harrison went for the single, that's defensive and it's turning into offense, and that's fantastic. But she would never have had that opportunity if Harrison stayed on the back. There was so many things that she did in this fight. I felt like at one point, I know I don't think this is really what was happening, but I was having a discussion with my wife about it. I'm like, I wonder if she put a huge bet on Pacheco because the odds were so off. Like she had someone else put a couple $1 million on Pacheco. And she was in these positions, so she just made it harder, and then she knew she could work her way out of them, so it would make it look competitive at least. But she made it more difficult than she needed to. And then she kept the fight close on purpose. Because, yeah, she gets $1 million to this fight plus her normal paycheck. But, coming back 7-1 or 8-1 on a $1 million bet, that's more than $1 million. So, that's not, I don't think that's what happened. I really think that Harrison just came in. I don't know. She looked compromised. Something looked wrong. Something looked off. It was not a good performance by her. Pacheco did have a better performance than what I've seen from her in the past, and she looked like she has improved. But the fact that Harrison just came in there and utterly shit the bed, it was rough to watch. It really was. It made me angry watching a gold medalist, a two-time gold medalist, actively make decisions to make her life worse. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. But, sorry, one of my cats, the new kitty, she thinks it's fun to go not only inside the Christmas tree, but inside speakers and rip out the foam inserts. Ugh. All right, moving on here. One of my favorite fights, actually, this is the fight of the night, to be honest with you. Fight of the night here, Brendan Laughnane taking on Bubba Jenkins. What a performance from both guys, to be honest. It's just, I said this while I was watching it. It's just Brendan looked like he was dialed in, man. He looked like he was dialed in. He was determined. He would not. I mean, the first round was close, and we'll get to it round by round. But Brendan really just, man, it's so hard to explain. It's almost like his goal. Like, he was going to hit his goal no matter what was happening in the fight. And his goal was to poke and prod and damage and defend take. Like, he was just going to do that no matter who was across from him, right? He just went in there with a game plan. Have you ever seen someone who just gets in the zone, right, when they're playing, especially, in normal team sports, something like more comparable to what people watch. Because I was gonna say tennis, but that's less. That's obviously not a team sport most of the time. Like basketball, you just see a guy on the court and he's just hitting everything, right? You see it. We saw it with Kobe in the past. We've seen it with guys like LeBron. LeBron less so with shooting, but it does happen. It's like Ray Allen when he was hot. You see it. There's there's a lot of guys who do it now. Trey Young does it all the time. You just see it. Steph Curry, obviously. There's just something that clicks, and it's just like no matter what is going on in front of them, they're just going to shoot the ball and put it in, right? And I obviously they're going to make it, 50% of the time, but that seems bad, but there's just something going on where it doesn't matter what's happening in front of them, right? There could be a herd of buffalo running in front of them. The earth could be breaking down in front of them. Like the earth could literally split in twain in front of them. It doesn't matter. They're dialed in. They have a goal. They have a purpose, and they're going to achieve that goal, and they're going to live out that purpose. And that's what it looked like with Brendan. It looked like no matter what was coming back at him, it didn't matter. Yeah, he got hit a few times, and Jenkins was performing. Like I said, he had a good performance here. He did a good job for the most part of implementing his game plan, and he landed when he could, and he was doing his stuff offensively. It's just Brendan was like, I'm having none of this. Like, I'm going to win this. This belt is mine. The championship is mine. The money is mine, and I'm going to go get it. It's incredible. Also, real quick note before we start getting into these things or into the rounds here, the respect between Brendan and Bubba. And I understand beforehand, like right before the fight, they had to start talking crap. And then during the fight, they started talking like, they were, talking smack a little bit. That's all well and good because immediately afterwards, Brendan gave him nothing but respect. Bubba gave him nothing but respect. Even before they matched up, or no, right when they were matched up, but before the lead up to the fight, they were nothing but respectful of each other. Like, I love that stuff. It doesn't always have to be like that. You can talk shit. It's MMA. It's whatever. But these guys were very professional, and I loved all of this, all of the things. I know I'm gushing a little bit here. It's just this fight was fantastic. It was fight of the night, in my opinion. Fun to watch. The performances, the highest level of MMA as far as I'm concerned, you can get out. Like, even in the UFC, this was an excellent fight. So first round, Jenkins was keeping him away, kind of keeping him at bay with some high kicks and kicks to the calf. Both guys were kind of staying on the outside, trying to work their distance. Now, early on, Jenkins, when he was throwing those high kicks and those higher kicks and kicks to the body, you saw these moments where Brendan was really trying to measure that stuff and work his way in. He just wasn't able to really get too much going, so he kind of played the game with him. This was later on in the fight with this high kick, and then he was like, "Okay, well, fine, let's do leg kicks together." So Jenkins, after taking a couple leg kicks, Jenkins was like, "Okay, screw that, time for the takedown." First takedown attempt. It was a single leg. Brendan fought it off. It was the first attempt. Then Jenkins works his way to a second one, and Jenkins wasn't able to get the takedown. And early on in the fight, when you're dry, both guys are fresh, you can kind of get a feel for how it's not just whether or not they got the takedown, it's how good of attempt was the takedown and how well did they fight it off, how much energy did they use to fight it off. And through all that stuff, it looked like Brendan was going to do a decent job fighting off takedowns until he got tired. That was my guess. Positionally, he put himself in a good spot. He did have to muscle his way out. His technique isn't perfect. So when he's positioning his hips and his legs, he's doing a good job, but Jenkins was much better. It's just Brendan got into a good enough position, was able to muscle his way out. So it really came down to like whose cardio is going to hold up the best. If Brendan's cardio is able to hold up, I think he's going to be able to hold him off. And then in this first round, those leg kicks from Brendan really started to add up. Jenkins had this giant welt on the front of his calf, and all those low kicks. There was a big left hand that landed from Jenkins. This first round I actually gave to Jenkins. I understand that the FBR gave this first round to Brendan, 42-40. I understand that. I mean, maybe they're taking into account those leg kicks, giving him some decent amount, and some of the bigger shots that Brendan landed, I guess. But I felt like Bubba did more damage in this first round, which told me, I'm like, this is going to be a competitive fight. And one of these guys is going to have to make an adjustment to really step out of this back and forth thing that they're going to have. The lead leg, and it was Brendan. So the lead leg of Bubba was really compromised because Brendan just kept landing um, that front low kick. Brendan was landing a really good jab this round. He was defending well against the cage because against the takedown attempts. Jenkins was still landing, and he was landing. He did it later on too. He was landing this double up right. So he would throw out the jab, land it, and then put a little bit of an arc and a little bit of a twist on it on the second one, and he would land like this partial hook with the lead hand. He also would switch stances, but I think that was more in part because of the damage to his lead leg. This second round, though, Brendan just did more damage. He was landing more. Bubba had his moments, and he was landing big shots, so he was always dangerous. He could always land something huge and really compromise Brendan, but the takedown attempts really didn't do it for him. He was 0 for 6 on the night. I really wish they would break it down round by round. I gave the second round to Brendan, 19-19. And then Jenkins' leg was so beat up. His face was swelling up too. He was firing back and landing well. Like I said, he still had power this whole fight. He was landing, and Brendan just started putting stuff together. He was really finding his range. He was finding his timing, finding the rhythm of the fight. And like I said at the top of this, there was just something about it where he was like, I'm going to get to my goal no matter what's in front of me. It just so happened that Bubba was in front of him. So Brendan was really putting it together, landing 3 or 4 piece combos, and then he would land with a low kick to both of the legs of Bubba. Yeah, these low kicks. This one's actually behind the knee. That's not the one that landed the most. To be honest with you, most of them landed right on the shin or to the side of the leg. And then at the end of this, third round, Brendan started unloading, and it looked like a punching bag session. Not that Jenkins wasn't defending himself; he was. It's just he wasn't able. It looked like he was kind of gassing out just a little, and Brendan started unloading good combos. He was taking his time with it. You could tell he wasn't rushing through them. He was putting together. He was putting together like 1-2s, and he was throwing an uppercut here. He would dig down to the body. He would go up top. He would take his time, and then he would unload. It was like pop, pop, pop. Pop, 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 pop. And it had like a rhythm to it, something that you would see someone working on the bag. And like I said, it's just something was clicking for him, and it was everything was working. Bubba actually caught another kick in this so in this third round, I obviously gave to Brendan. I had him up 29-28, and then Bubba caught another kick and dove for a takedown in this fourth round. Just couldn't get it. No dice, man. Bubba was really fast with that double right hand. It landed well multiple times. Brendan was starting a combo with the low kick, so he would actually lead in with the low kick. Then he would land a left, so he would go low kick up top with the left, and then come over or come straight with the right. And he landed that. Oh my God, I don't know. I think in the fourth round here, I think he landed it at least 3 times. And then Brendan landed a right hand that staggered him, and Jenkins did almost like the splits. He just he couldn't take the damage anymore, and he went down. What a great finish from him. Again, like I said, super respectful at the end of the fight. Love that stuff. And there's Brendan holding the belt. I think that's his mom in the background. He was very appreciative, very emotional, working his way here. Obviously, his story. He was on the Dana White Contender Series. He was beating this guy definitively, and then he went for a takedown in the last round to secure the victory. And Dana White didn't like it, so he didn't give him a contract. And I think it's 3 years later now. He's an official millionaire from one fight. He's a champion in another organization. So it's a little bit of a feel-good story. Obviously, we share a name. So I don't know if you guys have this. I know some people have this disdain for their own name. Weird rhyme. They have this disdain when they hear their name, and they're just like, oh, I hate people with my name. And or maybe they just hear their name so much. It's such a common name that they don't care, like Robert or Michael or David or something like that, where everybody has that. So many people have that name. It's not even a big deal. But for me, the same spelling and everything, and someone named Brendan, it perks my ears up because 1, it's not a common name, and 2, as far as like people in the public eye, there's not a lot of people with that name. So there's a part of me that wants to root for that person regardless. And then that was part of the allure for Brendan Schaub for me. To be honest with you, is one of the things that brought me into watching him. But in these cases, like these fighters, like Brendan Allen, Brendan Laughnane, like I said, the aforementioned Brendan Schaub, it's one of those things where it already puts them in a better position than some random fighter. And then if they do more things, it takes them over the top, then I root for them. So there's a little bit of that. And like I said, I'm a pretty biased. I'm biased anyway. And watching this guy fight, it was something else. It was fun to watch. If you didn't see this and you didn't buy the pay-per-view, I understand. Wait till this is free. Try and find some highlights that they post on Twitter or whatever. Go watch this fight. It's worth it. It's the skill level from both guys, but especially Brendan. It was really on display. He put it together. He really peaked at the right time this year, and gets a championship for the season. So good job, Brendan. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, that was a long one. Let's move on, shall we? Ante Delija taking on Matheus Scheffel. Short fight. Good fight. Just short. So, Scheffel. Oh, boy. Scheffel had to step in on short notice, and he beats a guy. He actually lost to Delija earlier in the season, and then he had to beat the previous champion to get into the finals. And there's a lot of situations. Basically, Matheus Scheffel was not the premium contender, but he was able to win when he needed to. When he needed to step up, he did it. He was he stepped in. I think one of the guys had a visa issue, so he makes it into the finals. And then he won. He won the playoff game. And he was an alternate for the playoff fight, and he comes in and he wins. I'm not mad at the guy. I'm just saying, like, I think this fight could have been Delija could have fought someone a little bit more challenging for his fighting style, because we have seen this before. So Matheus was connecting when he stayed tight. So early on in this fight, Matheus was measuring. He was staying tight inside with his combos, but he was also swinging wildly. And the thing is, he was missing when he was swinging wildly, but when he was countering and staying inside himself and keeping it in the pocket, right? When he was doing that stuff, he landed some really good shots, right? It's one of those things where you want to throw that big shot because you want to throw everything into it and put the power behind it and put the guy out with one shot. And if it lands, you win immediately. So the allure and all that stuff, it makes sense to throw those, especially, in a measured way sometimes, whatever. But in this case, he was doing so well on the inside. And I understand that Delija was also landing well. Like, Ante was landing some stuff in there too. He was doing damage. It was going pretty even. It's just that anytime Delija would land a bigger shot, something with some pop on it, Matheus would respond by swinging. And it exposed him, and that's when you could tell Delija kind of found the key to victory here. He was taking shots, and he knew he had to wade in there. He just saw a path to victory where he could take a couple shots from Scheffel, look for an opening, land something, wait for Scheffel to overextend, and then follow up with some big shots. That's exactly what he did. He ended up landing a left hook at the end of a combo that staggered him, and then followed up to get the finish in the win here in the first round. Beautiful finish for Delija. Great championship for him. Congratulations on the $1 million. Awesome fight. Not a ton to break down there. Yeah, let's just move right on. Good. I mean, Delija getting the win. There's nothing controversial about that stuff. I think it was good. Aspen Ladd versus Julia Budd. Obviously, this was not a title fight. This was Aspen Ladd making her PFL debut against the former Bellator title holder in Julia Budd. This one did go to get a split decision here. This was a lot of the fight for much of the middle round. That was a good when she got her up on that one leg. And yeah, the knees from Budd were really doing some work. Bud is jacked still, man. She is kept in really good shape. But Aspen Ladd ends up getting the split decision win. So it was kind of weird having this fight on the main card, on this card. I'm not complaining, right? I believe that both these women are very skilled. Bud's obviously more of a legacy fighter. She's got that older style, more of a brawler. She's just in really good shape, and she brings it. She's got a decent chin, and she's just a gritty fighter. Whereas Aspen Ladd's a little bit more evolved. She's more of the newer version of MMA, especially female MMA. A little bit more skills, better in the grappling, sits down on her punches a little bit better. But she's younger in the sport. She's also not really a 145er. She just has problems with weight cutting. I don't know what it is with her body. I appreciate her fighting at a weight class where she can make it, but I have always felt this is coming from someone who dealt with this. This was my job for many years, right? And this isn't coming from total inexperience. There's very few things on this planet where I will sit there and tell you, like, my opinion does matter, right? And not that my opinion matters, sorry, that I have enough information to make a informed deduction based off what I'm seeing. Based off of her body fat content, unless she has some undisclosed medical issue, which is unlikely because she wouldn't be fighting if it was that serious, right? Unless she has some undisclosed medical issue, it really comes down to balance, right? Now, it could be that she can't perform the way that she wants to if she cuts down her intake, so her caloric intake, if she cuts it down more than it is right now, or that she normally does leading up to fights, she's not able to perform and get the improvement or get the output that she likes, and she finds herself being exhausted and tired and that kind of thing. Her body doesn't adjust to it well. Therefore, she ends up saving all that weight cut to the very end, and then she misses. So, like I said, it's a comfort thing. Maybe it's during the off season when she's not in camp. She's less diligent about her dietary choices. Maybe she's less diligent about her output, her caloric output. There's a lot of things that go into it. But what I would say, based off of what I've seen from her over the years, is that it's a decision she's going to have to make because to make a lower weight class. I really feel like 135 is where she belongs. She doesn't make the weight, and I've been critical of her in the past because it's not just messing with her, it's messing with the card, it's messing with other fighters, it's taking away opportunities from fighters who should be that weight class. Not even taking away opportunities, she's actually putting a loss on the record that doesn't have an asterisk on it. It's unfortunate because unless it's for a title fight, that it's never brought up again, and it's just a win on her record and a loss on her opponents. So it's one of those things where she can get leaner. It is possible, and she can keep it off. And I feel like she's very muscular. So I think 135 is probably the most that her body style would allow her to get down to without making drastic changes to her muscularity. But it is possible. Okay, I've seen it happen. I've helped people do it, both for athletic competition, but just general health and wellness. It is possible to make these changes. They can be gradual. It comes down to comfort. You're going to have to be uncomfortable at some point, whether it's in the gym, outside when you're running, whether it's with your friends and family, whether it's when it comes to sleep. You're going to have some discomfort. Now, if you apply that discomfort evenly over a long period of time, it makes things a lot easier. So that's where you say, like, you have gradual dieting and you lower your intake slightly by like a few hundred calories and that kind of stuff, as opposed to just cutting everything off and trying to suck all the water out of you right before fight day. This fight was a lot of grappling, and Ladd got the advantage of it early on. I thought this was weird that it was on the main card, but it's a good matchup. There's nothing wrong with this. Bud was really sweaty coming out to the fight. She must have warmed up real hard on purpose to get sweaty because she knew Ladd was going to be going in there to kind and grapple with her. Ladd caught a kick and got the takedown early. She stayed on the back. Bun spun around in it. She ended up getting swept. It was a dominant round for Ladd, 10-9. Lots of clinch in the second round here. Lots of pummeling work from both women. They both had moments. The knees from Bud were doing the most damage. They did the most, they were the most damaging shots in this round. Lad had more control in the clinch positions in the second round, but the knees from Bud just, they really did it for me anyway. And if you look at the FPR, it kind of plays out that same way, giving Bud the second round here. In this last round, there was more separation and there was more striking, and I think Lad landed the bigger shots because she used bigger swinging shots. Or the takedown attempts were there, but Bud just kept it simple with the jab and the knees and the clinch and just worked up the middle. I want to say Lad did enough in this last round. I really do. I think she did. Because Bud was I feel like if you looked at the striking numbers, if you broke it down round by round, I bet you Bud landed more in this last round, especially with those knees, that the significant strikes. But I would say that Lad's did more, and even if it didn't, the fact that the damage was so close, I would give it to Lad for the pressure that she put on her. So I gave it to Lad 29-28. Two judges saw it that way. Saul D'Amato saw it the other way. I'm not mad at him. It was a close fight. I feel like she did enough damage to take that last round. I really did. All right, back to the title fights here. Holy moly, there's a lot of these. This is going to be a long video. Oof. Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Olivier Aubin-Mercier versus Stevie Ray. Oh, boy, this is a good one. Oh, dude, talk about saving the best for last. As far as his performance, OAM's performance as far as the season goes, just saving it, man. What a performance! Getting the finish, getting the finish in the second round. Dude, so I remember talking about this a few months ago, and if you remember me saying, when it came to the grappling, I felt that they're relatively even, that either guy could get the advantage. Obviously, Stevie Ray is more of a grappler, I would say, but OAM is such a good grappler, I felt like it was going to be relatively even. And then when it came to striking, I felt that OAM had the advantage, so I felt he had more ways to win. So I favored OAM, but slightly. And boy, did it play out like that. Holy moly. Nostradamus strikes again. I say these things. It's not like I would never put money on this stuff, and I hope nobody ever uses my advice to put money on things. It's just one of those things where I kind of saw it, and it played out that way. Even if it didn't end the way I might have thought in my head, the way it played out, the way I thought the fight was going to play out, it worked like that. Ray was throwing some straight punches out there to keep the distance and staying off the fence. So OAM took the center of the cage early. He was landing hard low kicks to the lead leg. Stevie Ray was losing his balance, and that low kick was going to be a problem if this fight went longer. Ray, with the first takedown attempt, pressing with the double unders against the cage, OAM ended up stopping that first takedown. Stevie was just swinging out of range. OAM was able to avoid and land counters. He actually dropped Ray with a low kick, and then a nice left hand comes up with the follow. The low kicks to the lead leg were really taking a toll on Stevie Ray, but Ray with the aggression at the end of that first round, he probably feels the effect. So oftentimes what you'll see is these fighters, when they feel that their leg is being compromised, they get more aggressive because they know, like, one, if I'm aggressive, it's going to be less likely he's going to hit my leg that same way. But two, I'm going to need to end this fight because I can't take any more of these. And in the second round, Ray actually caught a kick and lifted OAM. And yeah, this is where he took him off balance. He ends up getting his back body lock, and he lifted him 3 times. 3 times he had to pick OAM up. I think OAM actually grabbed the cage on one of them. Not cool. But he slammed him down. It was a great. That first round obviously went to OAM. Second round, yeah, you can look here, 52-14 as far as the FPR. He just landed more, did more damage. So he ends up getting the lift 3 times, and he slams him down on the final one. OAM actually worked his way back up, but he spent a long time on his back. Dude, Stevie Ray was on his back looking for submissions. OAM was defending really well, but then when they get back up, OAM lands this this was the whole second round. And then at one point they're in separation here, and holy shit, OAM lands this beautiful right hook, and Stevie Ray goes out. And the referee stepped in there to prevent more damage. Beautiful stoppage, beautiful finish. What a finish for OAM, getting $1 million, man. Love it. The performances from these people, like even from Larissa Pacheco, like her performance was excellent. It's not that she didn't do her job. As I felt like Kayla really put out a stinker. Um, for the most part, these fights, like these guys, like you felt like they were in it to win it. These guys were out there trying to get the win, get the finish, and they were trying to win $1 million. We will talk about in a second a fight that did not fit that bill. But as far as this one goes, let's keep it on a happy note. OAM goes up to Stevie Ray after the fight, and Ray's like literally asking him, like, what did you catch me with? And OAM showing him, like, no, I caught you, like right with the right hook. And then Ray's like, oh, man. And then they hug afterwards. Dude, yeah, holy shit. What a great right hand. This card, for the most part, was great. Leading up to, and I would say arguably including the main event. But as far as the rest of the fights, there was only one bad stink. There was only one fucking stinker on this this pay-per-view card. So let's talk about that now, shall we? Sadibou C versus Dilano Taylor. Oh, Jesus. Stupid. I can't. I'll just I'll state it right now. I can't stand this guy. Can't stand him for multiple reasons. Like, I'll just lay out my bias right now. I wanted him to lose. I wanted him to get knocked out. I can't stand the way he fights. It's boring as shit. It's awful to watch. It's horrible for the sport. And the fact that he was allowed to get to this point is a serious failure in the PFL system. Having him squeak by in a like here, like the striking numbers, the strikes thrown, 180 strikes over 5 rounds, 77 landed. So most of those were leg strike. Most of those were low kicks or kicks to the body from C as he ran backwards. The dude must only run backwards on a treadmill because there's no way you can prepare cardiovascularly for the fight that he had by running forward, because he didn't take a single forward. I think he took 4 forward steps the whole time. There's not a moment that you can tell me from this fight where Sadibou was actually trying to finish the fight or set up a finish for the fight. He was literally point fighting his way to a victory. And, to speak to his skill level, I mean, he can do it, I guess, and he did it against Dilano Taylor, who's less experienced in his career. He's a much younger fighter, and I think down the line he's going to be a lot better. But C didn't belong in here to begin with, right? He had controversial wins to get into the finals, and then he ends up getting in here. He ends up getting in here through a controversial win anyway, right? So if you look at these, the fight versus Nikolay Oleksakin was a split decision, a bad one, right? He did not win that. He didn't win that one. Somehow they gave it to him. Everybody knew that they didn't give it to him. He won a fight versus Rory McDonald. Again, none of these were good fights, by the way. They were all fucking horrible to watch. But he in this fight against Rory McDonald, I would argue that he did win that fight. It just wasn't fun to watch, and people were upset about it because he wasn't doing anything. And you can argue, there are some people arguing that he did lose this one. So again, not great. And then Carlos Leal Miranda, he lost this one too, in my opinion. Like how they scored it. If you go back and you look at the FPR for that fight, the reason I'm doing this is because this fight, there's not much to fucking talk about anyway. So it's not like me talking about this one's going to make any difference. But we can actually look at the FPR from those. Yeah, let's see here. Not regular season. The playoffs. That one was fun. Look at this. You want to go by their FPR? Look at this shit. 49-46, 47-48. So that was a close round, and then 36-40. Again, like, you want to talk about like strikes and damage and moving forward and all that stuff. He squeaked by to get in here. And this is a problem. This is what I'm talking about in the failure in the PFL. So I was very happy with the other ones, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. We can talk a little bit about how this fight went down because I do that, and it's not like I didn't watch it. It's just a problem that they have with their scoring system. If you get a split decision victory, it's the same as someone getting a unanimous, one-sided, molly-whopping 30-25 victory, right? If you get a 30-25, that means the other guy was on death's door for a majority of the 15 minutes, probably. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you beat the piss out of that guy. And then I come in there and I point fight my way, or maybe it's not point fight. Maybe I do a lot of damage in one round, and the opponent does a lot of damage, and it's a fun fight. But in this last round, it's real close and whatever, and I squeak by, and I just barely do it. I'm less actually angry about that, but I'm more angry about this, like this fighting style. So for me, let's say I did that, and I barely get a split decision victory, and let's say it's controversial. And a lot of people think I didn't get it. I get the same amount of points you do. Right? I still get 1 point for the victory, the same as you. Right? I understand the 3, the 2, and the 1. Right? Winning in the first round, or the bonus points. Sorry, I still get 3 points. My bad. It's the bonus points, right? If you get the finish in the first, the second, and the third, you get 3, 2, and 1 points respectively. So you can leave with 6 points maximum from a first round finish. Understandable. Totally understand that stuff. It's the decision victory that needs to change. If you get a unanimous decision, like there's got to be some grading. There's got to be some gradient to it. Because if you're just like, I understand that part of that is taken out by part of the randomness is taken out by the fact that you have to fight multiple people and you're hopefully going to sift through it. But then you end up with shit like this with C in the finals doing this shit. Nobody watching that enjoyed it. Nobody. Unless you're C's grandma. Nobody. Fucking horrible. C, as usual, was taking the strategy of low kicks and running away. He just kept moving backwards. You gotta love how C will literally run backwards the whole round and then he raises his hands at the end of the round, like he's out there fucking dominating the guy. Like after every round, he's like, "Yeah, smiling, woo, fuck yeah, you guys love that." Nobody loves it, you fuckhead. It's horrible to watch. Jeez. Like, you can be critical. Like, I know I was probably a little bit harsh on Kayla Harrison, but that's just because she was making mistakes. Like, I felt like she had a brain fart in there. She was doing something wrong. This guy's actively making fights worse. Like, you could have, if Dilano Taylor just stood still, C could have been charged with stalling and lack of engagement. The whole fucking round, he moved backwards, and he's talking. He like raises his hands up like he's out there fucking dominating this guy. Obviously, he won the round 10-9. Look at the FPR, which grades the amount of damage you're doing to your opponent. 14-9. And then here's the thing: you want to talk about like, oh well, he won the round, great, and he's holding his hands up like he did something. He landed 10 strikes to 6 for Dilano Taylor, and Dilano Taylor was the one moving forward, actively trying to engage in the fight. Now, that doesn't mean anything if you're getting outstruck, but when the striking numbers are that close, I obviously did not give that first round to Taylor. Second round I did, though. Second round, Taylor was coming out more aggressive. C was trying to complain about a cup shot, which he does all the time. I think he has done it in every single fight. Taylor was doing a much better job going in on the clinch. C was spent the last 15 seconds running away again, sidestepping, and literally running backwards. The numbers were close enough to say that you have to give it to Taylor because he was actually moving forward and he was doing damage and he was the one trying to engage. So I had it 19-19. These fights are so boring. Watching this motherfucker run around is so fucking frustrating. Taylor was literally having to jog after him over and over. If you do watch this pay-per-view and you go back and watch this, take a look at what Taylor was having to do. He was literally having to like jog, like do a double step to try and catch up to this motherfucker running away from him. You can say what you want about Israel Adesanya, but the dude plants his feet when he's trying to do things. And then, yeah, he'll avoid and he does not in the most interesting fights all the time. I get that, and I've been critical of that, but it's a lot better than this because he's also looking for finishes when he has the opportunity. C does not. C literally just point fights his way to victory, and he's fighting a guy who couldn't figure out that puzzle. Taylor was literally like having to jog after him. C was squeezing down on his arms and grabbing his gloves. He did it for more than one round, but he finally gets warned for it. So he was grabbing the inside of Taylor's gloves like this, where he's going to the inside of the glove. You're not allowed to do that. That's illegal. Did it multiple times. He was holding on to him. It was very, when they talk about high level kickboxing and the fact that this guy was a champion level kickboxer, this is why people don't watch it. Same reason why people don't find boxing as interesting is like a lot of the holding and like squeezing around like that. And same thing with MMA. When people are doing this on the ground, people don't like that shit. People are just laying and praying. People don't like watching that. This is just as bad, if not worse. Taylor was landing more damage that round. C was slowing down a little bit and running even more than he did. This fourth round, I gave to Taylor as well. And look at that. FPR also gave it to him, but the judges didn't. The judges gave this to C. I'm telling you, this motherfucker is gaming your system. He just stole $1 million from you guys. He stole it. That's exactly what he just did. He found a way to game the system, and that's what he's doing. Now, there was some luck involved. Obviously, there's skill. He's a skilled fighter. He's obviously skilled enough to do this, okay? But he's gaming your system. He's not fighting to try and finish. He's not trying to put on exciting fights. He's not trying to do anything. He's trying to steal $1 million from you guys, and that's exactly what you just let him do. But I had it 38-38 going into the final round. C was trying to get a takedown and running away from the last minute. Like, for literally the last minute, he went for a takedown, grabbed the gloves again, held his arm. He pinched his arm. So, like, anytime Taylor's arm went underneath the armpit, it got an underhook, C, like, locked it up, and then he would go like this, and then when he would try to slip it out, he would hold it. He would hold the glove and stop him from taking the arm out. And the commentary team was talking about, they're like, oh, what does C need to do to get a finish here? Like he's fucking trying. Fuck off. Fuck off. The commentary for this one was horrible. It was so biased you wouldn't believe it. You would think that Taylor did nothing. But if you look at these, sure looks like that C didn't do anything either, and the rounds were close enough to actually give it to him. You can't tell me at any point he was trying to finish the fight or work for a finish. I'm done with it. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's go end on a good note here, because this fight was a banger. Great way to start the card, too. This fight was fucking fantastic. Woo! All right. Robert Wilkinson. Robert Wilkinson taking on Omari Akhmedov. Oh, boy. What a fight. This was you knew this was going to be a banger, too. You fucking knew it. Both guys were landing hard, low kicks to start. Wilkinson, he was taking the center. Omari was standing and planting and trying to swing big from the outside, but he wasn't able to land any really huge damaging shots. He did. So Omari had moments where he was landing shots, and Wilkinson wasn't moving his head as well at the end of the combos, trying to avoid, but he did avoid a majority of the big shots, and he rolled with some of those punches. And then I think eventually he kind of felt the power that was coming back from Akhmedov and realized, like, hey, I can take one or two of these, and I'm going to land 6. So that's what he did, man. At this first round, Omari went for a takedown, and Robert landed an uppercut and then a knee when they stood up. Omari was complaining about a low blow from the knee, trying to get a rest. He didn't get one. I don't know. They didn't show replays. Robert stuffed the takedown, landing big right hands on the break. Omari was looking super tired already, falling all over the place and on the retreat at this first round. Robert hurt Omari with a big left hook and right hands, and then he dropped him with a flying knee to end the round. Like, he just fucked him up royally at the end of that first round. It was not even close. 10-9, 10-8 maybe. Omari did have moments, so maybe you only go 10-9, but holy shit. And then second round, Omari was swinging desperately, looking for a takedown. He just got walloped on the feet. He was just getting fucking tagged, picked apart, and it was not going well for him at all. Omari was desperately looking for takedown attempts. Wilkinson stuffed it again. He started to land up top on the separations. Omari's face looked like fucking ground beef. There was a pause in the action to look at the cut on Omari Akhmedov. But it was good for Omari, not the cut, but the fact that they gave him a break. They brought in the doctor. They said it was good to go. At the end of this round, somehow Omari withstood the damage. He just took an ungodly amount of shots. Wilkinson unloaded on him, just everything, throwing it to, just digging to him. I would give that round a 10-8 for sure. So I had 2017, but then in this last round, or before going into the third round, rather, the fight got stopped due to the cut that was on Akhmedov. I don't know if that's because it's New York. You know what I mean? Like, New York has had issues in the past, making bad decisions with cuts, with weight cuts, with injuries, things like that. They make a lot of bad decisions. They're a less experienced commission. So I'm not sure if that's why. I'm not going to harp on that one, though, because he was beating the fucking piss out of him. Dude, he was kicking his ass. Start to finish, pillar to post, beating the crap out of him. Good win for Wilkinson. Dude, look at the joy on these guys' face. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. You want to look at the difference, like these guys who just put in all this work, even Larissa Pacheco, all these guys putting in this work. And then this guy, look at C's face after he won. He's like, yeah, oh boy, I really did it. Dude, he's a fucking grifter. He went in there and he knew exactly what he was doing. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna make huge assumptions here. But look at the look on these guys' face. Look at this. Look at the look. Look at the look on Brent. Remember the look on Brendan's face? Remember the look on Larissa Pacheco's face? Remember the look on Olivier Aubin-Mercier's face? These guys went out there and bared their fucking soul for everybody. They put in everything. You can tell. And you probably know that feeling too. When you've worked just so hard for something, like you've put all of your effort into it. You've put all of your thoughts into it. You've sacrificed everything to get to for one purpose. And then it comes through and you finish it and you succeed. And that feeling of like the relief, the sadness, the happiness, the utter joy and jubilation that you have when you've completed that thing and you've accomplished your goal. You know that feeling that you have? You can see it. You can see it on these guys' faces. C had a look on his face like he went out there and he's like he's coming back because he found they had a discount on stuff at Jewel. Like they had a buy one, get one on beans. I'm like, oh yeah, to check this out. Like, look how many beans I got. That's pretty good. Fuck you, man. That's what pisses me off about it, right? It's not that, like this guy's getting money for winning or that, Dilano Taylor didn't win. It's not that. I appreciate anybody who steps in there, anybody who goes in a fight. Absolutely. It's that you can tell there's a difference. Like he knows exactly what the fuck he's doing. He goes in there, he games the system, he's raising his hands, he's playing games in there, playing every angle, playing all the angles he can instead of trying to go out there and finish the fight. Whereas these other guys, these other fighters, they're just, like I said, they're bearing their soul for everyone to see. They're showing you a piece of themselves, and they're just ripping it open like the Hulk said. It's like a nerve, like an exposed nerve, and that's what they're just doing, man. And it's a beautiful thing to see. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And you can see it when these guys like they bare their soul, and it doesn't go their way. You can tell. It's crushing. It's heartbreaking. And I'm sure you guys have been there too. But, oh man, Wilkinson, man. So many of these fights. Like I said, this card was fantastic, minus one fight. It was fun to watch. Just good job, PFL. I don't know if their numbers are going to be so good because these guys, the promotion for this was not as good as it should have been, but the product was fantastic. I loved every second of not one fight. So most of the title fight, actually all the other title fights were fantastic. The Aspen Lad debut was good. Great stuff. All right, this video is going on long enough. If you're looking for the prelims or the early card, I'm going to cover that in the next video. If you made it this far, just hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so the next video is coming out. If this is the only video you watch this weekend, holy shit, you made it to the end of this really long one. I appreciate your time. It means a lot to me. I hope you have an amazing week. I really do, and I love y'all.